Hello and welcome to the World Base Builder channel. Today we're going to try out RunPro Fun's workshop scenario on Titan. Titan does not have any coal or carbon, it does not have oxide ices, and it does not have volatile ices. It does have plenty of water ice, and from that you'll have to extract all of your hydrogen and oxygen. Another obstacle is that you cannot eat or drink without opening your helmet. In other different scenarios, you can eat and drink through various tubes and whatnot. You do not have to open your helmet. Here, you have to open your helmet. And there are pollutants and volatiles in the atmosphere, and it's minus 179 degrees Celsius. So, let's see how well we do. Alright, here we are in the start screen. We'll go straight to the workshop. You can see the open workshop button on the bottom right. But we've already loaded RPF's Titan scenario, and if you go to a new world, you'll see that there's some new options. If you scroll down, you'll see the Arrakis plane and the nuclear plane. The nuclear plane is the variation we're going to be playing. That includes some extra nuclear batteries in the rover, which go pretty far. There's also a smart canister in the rover, so those certainly help you to get started. We'll just start with the normal difficulty, and before we really get started, we could talk about our past attempts. Our past attempts were in a base that was too large. We tried to do, 2 block ceilings, 20-foot ceilings, and it was just too big of a space for an atmosphere that is minus 179 Celsius and is 159 kilopascals. Very difficult to heat up. By the time you get it that heated up, you've already destroyed your lungs trying to eat with frozen air that has a bunch of volatiles and pollutants in it, and you try over and over, and it's difficult to also keep the heat up, and there are flames everywhere because you have volatiles and oxygen mixing pretty regularly. So you'll eventually start over in a much smaller base that you can fairly rapidly heat up and get up to livable conditions, at least so that you can open your helmet and eat and drink. So yes, many failures up until this point. Learn from my mistakes. It is a new morning here on Titan, and of course there are parts of your spaceship falling out of the sky. There should be 3 cargo sections, 1, 2, and a rover. Of course, the 3rd cargo section is probably going to be falling down over the horizon, and sure enough, there it is. I suspect that the most important crates are within this cargo section. There are 2 crates for each of these cargo sections. However, there is a bonus 7th crate that they give you in this nuclear scenario. But first, cargo section up first. Let's see what the 2 crates here contain. Of course, it's peanut butter side down, so thankfully it's round, so you get to bang on it with your helmet. That's always a safe thing to do. And there's our first crate. Seeds, not terribly useful at the moment. And that looks like raw supplies, your steel plates and all that, so that's going to be the first thing we need. Better start looking for some tools. Hopefully they gave us tools. Yes, there we go. And of course your handy dandy wrench, which is the first thing you need to start unlatching all of these crates from the cargo container. Of course, you always have to be careful when you're doing something in Stationeers, because Stationeers physics will shoot it straight into your head 9 times out of 10. Today we're fairly lucky, so let's haul this crate back to where the others are. We'll probably make our starting base somewhere around here. Seems to be relatively flat, and all the other supplies are here. So yes, we've got our many steel frames, which thankfully they gave you a whole ton of steel frames and steel plates, so this one was pretty generous in that regard. Of course, you've got your iron sheets, plastic sheets, and window panes, so you can build quite a few things here. We aren't going to need the ingots straight away. We have to build our auto lathe, find a place for it first, and then build it and then power it, which we're a little bit off from doing at the moment. So good place to stick our ingots for now, because they always have a way of blowing away. I don't know how a gold ingot gets blown by atmosphere halfway across the planet, but it happens. You did see as we were running around that you can right here we have some water ice. Probably don't want to go digging around here early on. Later on, we'll probably have Amy's or some other sort of auto mineral capture, whether it's the drills, the deep diggers, the ogres, which are mostly useless, and or just this smaller mine. But for now, we just have to concentrate on getting our relatively small base built. This time we're going to go for petite, because if you build too big, it just takes too much energy and time to heat up. Probably go with something that's about 3 by 3 or 4 by 3, not much bigger than that. Again, plenty of steel frames. One thing I will probably do here is go ahead and start on the roof, because another strange Stationeer physics artifact is that when you start closing up these frames, they blow you around. Normally I think it's about 2 frames, and then certainly you start feeling the mythic winds of Titan, the Mistrals here, and they start pushing you all over the place. But if you put the roof over your head, you don't go quite as far. If you don't have the roof here, for some reason when you start closing up the floor, you get blown like 100, 200 feet into the air. Luckily, the gravity on Titan's pretty minimal, so you just kind of float up there for a while and fall back. But you don't have a lot of time to waste floating around in Titan, so better build a roof over our heads so that we don't get pushed around. Right now we have the gas-powered welder. We do have 2 canisters. There's a second one up there in our jetpack basic with about 5.7 megapascals in it. They actually go pretty long. You don't have an immediate danger of running out of gas on this. In fact, you'll probably end up using that second gas canister to start your gas-fueled generator, which is one way to heat your base, which we'll get into here in a little bit, I hope. So we'll probably want to start getting our battery set up as rapidly as possible as well. Oh yeah, always remember to put in an airlock, so this will be the part where the airlock goes. But then the second order business is starting to capture that power, because every second there are winds blowing on Titan, and we are not capturing that energy in a battery, and we are going to desperately need it to run our auto lathe and everything else here. So we are going to focus on getting this done as rapidly as possible. Now that we have the roof done, we actually don't even have to worry about building the walls. In fact, I'm not going to bother wasting frames for the walls. I'm just going to go build some iron walls. But in order to start building those, I am going to need the auto lathe set up, and for that I'll need power. We did have plenty of iron ingots that were included, so we don't have to immediately go mining. And once again, we are hunting crates because we are now looking for the turbines. That is included in one of these shipping containers in one of the crates inside of it. Of course, it's always peanut butter side down or up. We kind of need peanut butter side sideways here to get to it. There's the jelly. And here's a good one. You can see heavy cables in there and many other things. We'll need the heavy cables for our power supply side. We want to use heavy cables in case we hopefully one day actually get up to 100k watts of power. And of course you can't get the handles, so you got to rotate the thing back a little bit, get a free hand, and that's right. And once again, hope it doesn't smack you in the head as you pull it out. We'll just kind of do a basic grid with the wind turbines on the roof. We're kind of going for efficiency here, not really prettiness. So there's the battery. It's not the large station battery, it's the smaller one, but hey, that's enough and help us survive. And those are the upright turbines. They don't really produce a lot, but they did give you 10, so it should be enough to get us started. Alright, I'm going to start with the battery first. I kind of put it here in the corner and then set up a little power section down below it in the actual base. So we'll go ahead and finish this off. We need some of the iron plates, and of course the welder for everything. And of course screwdrivers next, so easy swap out of tools. And we have a battery. Now always remember, turn on the battery and try not to fall off the roof when you do so. I'm not even sure it will accept power without it being turned on, so just build your battery, turn it on. It's just a matter of standard operating procedure. Alright, let's go ahead. Now since the battery's here, our layout's going to be a little bit asynchronous, so it's not going to be a perfect grid, but we'll do the best we can. We only have 10, so it's not like we're going to have too little space. We're going to run out of turbines well before we run out of space. When you're wiring these up, basically there's a connection and then kind of 2 straights between them, so it's kind of a every third cable. You'll see what I'm talking about as I connect these all up. So sometimes if you're already in a straight wire mode, it's easier just to kind of put them straight. So that's what I'm doing here. I haven't swapped out. So yeah, for all the people, it took me a while to figure this out. Why can't I put in another cable? Because I was able to do it before then. You need your, well, I call them bolt cutters because those things are ginormous. Here we use those to cut through a chain link fence and locks, but apparently here you need them for cables. So you need your cable cutters in your other hand if you're trying to put 2 cables in the same place or splice them. So yes, always hold the bolt cutters in the other hand. Same thing's true when you're doing plumbing. You need the wrench in the other hand. Also chutes, I believe, also use the wrench. So if you can't do something, it's usually because you have the wrong tool in the other hand or no tool at all in the other hand. So yeah, even the pros, the long-term players, sometimes do that. If you're a beginner and trying to learn Stationeers, there is a brilliant guy who does 1,000 videos. His YouTube station is, or channel is, Cows Are Evil, Mick. He's kind of like the Bob Ross of Stationeers. Some people just listen to his channel just to hear his voice. So if you are trying to learn how to play Stationeers, I would highly recommend going back there and looking at some of his videos, especially if you want to get into the IC10 programming, the MIP. And those of you who've played the game know that it's pretty powerful capability, and if you're not using it, you're kind of missing out, especially as your bases get more complicated. We're a long way off from that here because you have to have many alloys to start building those more advanced technologies. All we're trying to do is get some spinning turbines to power up our battery, and we'll probably run out of cable here before I get this all wired up, so we'll try and get the bulk of them wired up, at least just to get some energy flowing into the battery. And you can see when I was laying out the grid, I kind of did that stagger pattern of skipping 2 and putting down a 4-way for future turbines, which I don't have yet, but I know I will desperately need. And you can see this isn't going to quite line up because the battery kind of put things off slightly, but we'll fix that later. We just need the power to flow. And I seem to have done that. I need to get some more cables across those other turbines back there. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, we do. I did want to, before I run out of cables, I do want to get the down feed, because it's great that the battery's all charged, but if you can't use the power, then obviously it's not going to be a great help. So let's go ahead and make sure that we can get this down into the base with these final heavy cables. Get it down where we can plug it into an area controller and a transformer. And then actually start using it with the auto lathe. So we can do this part from the ground. I do notice that the jetpack here seems to last a long time on Titan. The light gravity probably helps. So it doesn't seem to be a concern early on, so don't really need to save on your propellant fuel in your jetpack. They did give us some controllers in here, which is good. There's 2 controllers. only one transformer, but the second controller is actually pretty handy to charge your battery. So we'll go ahead and get those set up. Our battery is going to start getting low here. It's already down to 76% on the suit. So we'll have to find some replacement batteries. We do have a second, the one in the suit's actually a nuclear battery, so that's going to last a while. The other one that's still being stored in the Jetpack Basic is already down to 86%. And that's another drawback here with Titan. With the very cold temperatures, your batteries will start losing energy just due to the cold. Even when you're not using them, they're losing energy. So you're going to constantly be charging batteries, at least early on, until you can start to get larger batteries and you really don't worry about it anymore. Or you can start getting the wireless batteries, where anytime you're near a omnidirectional transmitter, your batteries are getting charged up. In fact, those are a pretty good investment for your tools early on, so you aren't constantly having to swap batteries out of your tools. You probably won't be going too far from the base, so having an omnidirectional transmitter, power transmitter, and a few wireless batteries in your tools usually saves a lot of time. It's certainly a convenience factor. And we'll go ahead and just put the transformer on the lower one, and we'll wire the auto lathe right around the corner or pretty close to here. Since the smaller cables start to burn out when you get to 5,000 watts, we go ahead and just crank the small transformer all the way up. And technically it shouldn't draw more than 5,000 watts across this, but I'll go ahead and use a heavy cable between them. But after the transformer, you know it's not going to be more than 5,000 watts for the whole circuit. And open these things up. And we can shove batteries in here now. Oops, that's probably not the smart one to take. That's my nuclear battery in my suit. Kind of need that. And we'll take the large battery out, and you can see it'll immediately start charging. Remember to turn them on. That always helps when you're trying to get your controllers to work. And yeah, you do get the glasses here with the sensor processing unit already in it. So using those glasses will actually let you see resources, and that's extremely handy when you're looking for a specific resource. I mean, if you're just wandering around picking up whatever you find, you don't really need the glasses. But when you're running short on gold, for example, and need it for whatever you're building at the moment, for example, heavy cables use gold, then using those smart glasses certainly is a help. Here's the magic red crate. This is the additional one that comes in this scenario. It's mostly the landing resources. They do give you a landing strip, a computer to control it, a communications board. So they give you enough to just set up a very minor landing pad so that you can start doing trading for those things that you don't have here. I'm actually doing this voiceover after I've already been playing it for a little while, and I did not set up the trader base right away. I kind of just started focusing on getting other things and mining. I'll come back to that at some later point. There is a Stirling engine also in that red crate, so if you do get your base set up or have excess heat and want to use it, you can certainly explore that. Stirling engines are a little bit fun in that they like to explode. It doesn't take much to make them explode. 11 megapascals is their upper limit, and then they start taking damage. So in this red crate, which I'm coming back to, you can see there's a vending machine, a turbine generator. Those are kind of strange. Those are for between rooms that have a large heat differential. So they look like giant wall fans, you know, that pretty much take up the entire wall. Not super useful at the moment. I wasn't clear if they could also just make use of ambient air, so I'll give it a try here. But I will be sorely disappointed when I find out that no, it looks just like a giant wall fan, and apparently only works when it's surrounded by walls and has a temperature differential between rooms, and then maybe it will come to use. And they give you 10 of them, which is seems like an overly generous amount. There's the Stirling engine, landing pad atmospherics. That's if you want to get gas from your traders. Small satellite dish, communications motherboard, and then in the back is your computer. So they give you what you need to set up a small landing pad. If that's the direction you want to go in to start, you know, certainly that's a viable option. I'm not sure how long it would take to get all that set up and get a trader and get it all down. When you are basically looking to get someplace to eat your next meal, and we're already down to 48% on the water, Probably setting up a trader is not your top priority. However, apparently fooling around with a giant fan, which is not going to help us at all, is how I spent my time. Yeah, I think at this point it's puzzlement for what I do with this thing, and I decide not to do anything with it because it's not terribly useful. But ever hopeful, always the optimist. It looks like that. A giant fan that goes between rooms. I'm not even sure how much it generates, even if you do have good conditions. I certainly don't at the moment because I don't even have enclosed walls. So, hey, let's set it up and see if it spins. If nothing else, we get a giant pinwheel. And as expected, nothing happens. Doesn't even spin. Anywho, probably better idea to get on to bigger and better things and give up on the giant but interesting looking turbine. Alright, we have the power. The power is coming down to the main part of the base, so now it's about time to find the auto lathe and get it set up. And it is over here. Nope. Of course, it's always in the last crate you look in. Another ruled Stationeers. Cargo container is now empty. The rover. The rover is brilliant in that it has a bunch of nuclear batteries, as you can see right there. So you'll probably want to snag those. The bad part of the rover is that even if you hit Alt and turn on that switch, and you have to hit Alt and click on that, you cannot take off or open your helmet inside the rover, which would seem like a nice, easy solution. Because you turn it on and it does get up to, you know, a comfortable temperature, and it does suck out the volatiles and the pollutants. But you cannot use your hand. So in other words, you can't look at your tablets, you can't open your helmet and put, you know, food in your mouth or drink water. So it's nice in that it has a lot of supplies, but unfortunately it's not usable as a small temporary base just so you can eat and drink. So you still have the challenge of trying to get that base built as rapidly as possible. And I'm just trying to find space for all these batteries so I can get them down there and charge them. They do give you oxygen. Now, the beauty of the oxygen here is an insulated tank. So if you go to open this up in your hopefully soon-to-be base, it does not instantly freeze it. All of the uninsulated stuff on here is immediately going to go down to minus 179, and if you open that up in your base, it's going to freeze everything instantaneously. So as you can see down there by the helmet, the little figure of the guy running around with a giant space helmet and glasses, it shows 146 kilopascals and minus 179 C. So that is a difficult environment at best. Alright, so we're getting our backup batteries charged. Small batteries are kind of useless. They last all of like 2 seconds inside your spacesuit, but the large battery is not a bad backup, but 3 extra nuclear batteries, that is a lifesaver right there. So I'll keep one in my suit, keep an extra one on me in case I have to swap it out. So I'm at 99% and 100%, so good to go there. Oxygen is dropping a little bit, so we can't waste too much time. Good news is, back on the rover, there are 3 full oxygen containers, as well as a smart container for your waste. So we're actually pretty good there, as well as having the giant Mark II tank on the back of the rover, where we can refill our oxygen tanks. So we're not in desperate need of oxygen at the moment. And we seem to have gotten our power, at least for the spacesuit, sorted out. The big challenge now is eat and drink, and we are down to 34% water. So, yeah, the first drinking, and the drinking always takes forever. It's going to be a bit painful. All right, it is high time to set up the auto lathe. So we need to start running wires here shortly. One correction, I think I said that you cannot open your helmet inside the rover. You can open your helmet inside the rover, but you can't really do anything other than sit there in somewhat comfortable air. But you can't feed yourself, you can't look at your tablet, you can't drink, so not super useful. But yes, you can open your helmet, just to no real effect and no real advantage. Oh yeah, you do have to put your devices inside your tablet, including battery. It comes pretty much with nothing in it, so you'll want to get your tablet squared away. Atmosphere analyzer is probably going to be the most useful thing early on here. Small battery, I'm not sure really what to use that in. I'm just going to check it over here. We have the 3 nuclear batteries, and we also had the large batteries that came from the glass. The glasses actually have a large battery in them, which is definitely look in there and pull that out if you need it. But with the 3 nuclear, you probably don't have a urgent need for that once you pull the big ones out of the rover. It's probably not a bad idea to put it in a tool that you might use, or just hold it for a potential future area controller in case you need it as a little miniature battery backup for a small part of your circuit. We'll go ahead and start trying to lay out where we're going to put our auto lathe. Unfortunately, gotta have my airlock here in the middle of it. That was where the airlock was going to go, but I think we could still make it work. Since we do have a lot of frames, I'll go ahead and try to map out where I'm going to put things going forward in the future. I'll keep the base itself still 3x3, so 9 square, just to keep it as small a space, but it also has to be somewhat usable in that I want to enclose it as rapidly as possible, but have some tools in there like the auto lathe, the electronics printer, and also the hydraulics printer, because you'll need to start getting your electronics and then pipes directly thereafter. Especially if you're going to be running a bunch of atmospherics, and also your atmospherics. All those come out of the hydraulic printer. So I originally was going to have the airlock pretty much where I'm standing at the moment. I'm just going to move it over 1. That's why I built the extra frame over there. And this will be the home for the auto lathe. Of course, you have to go through the drill here of including your iron plates, and then it'll be followed up by, I think it's the plastic. No, actually, sorry, the coil and then the plastic. And I think the screwdriver, and you should have a working unit. There we go. Of course, I ran the wires to the back for some bizarre reason, so let's undo that and move it. Or do we want to just wire around it? I think, let's see. We'll go ahead and just shift it over 1. That way it's a little bit easier to run the wires from the transformer rather than having to wire them back underneath the transformer. And of course, I'll probably need that space for future wiring anyway. I'll just shift it over 1. But yeah, again, measure twice, cut once, because we're now down to 22% on our water, so we don't have a lot of time to do a lot of home interior design here. It does come together and also come apart fairly rapidly, especially once you know the sequence. But deconstruction is not something I do regularly, so it's not necessarily directly reversed. For example, you don't use the wrench when you're constructing, but you do use it when you're deconstructing. Just as you use the drill many times when you're deconstructing, whereas you use the screwdriver when you're putting it together. Alright, so we'll move it 1 over and just wire around the front.
Hydration critical.
And we'll get our wire cutters to clean this up. And already we're starting to get the warnings about drink. I guess one complaint I have about this scenario is you just seem to need to drink constantly. It is even later in the game when you have things a little bit more established and squared away, and it's not as much of a challenge. You still feel like you're going back to drink like every 5 seconds. It's not a bad early challenge, but I do kind of wish they could do like a smart container for water so that once you did get it established, you stopped having alarms going off all the time. So what we'll probably do up is rapidly is print out some iron walls. We'll go grab those iron ingots out of the crate that we stuck them in temporarily. We have the power. So we will go ahead and start printing up walls, and probably don't need to do iron plates. We still have 44 of those left, but we do need the walls. I might just do the glass walls here for aesthetics. The iron walls are the weakest. They will only take a 200 kilopascal difference between the inside and the outside, whereas the steel will take up to 300. But that's pretty minor. It's 146 kilopascals is the external atmosphere here. And, even if we keep the internal somewhere around 100, that's only 50 kilopascal difference. So should not be an issue unless something goes terribly wrong. And this being Stationeers, that's always a good way to jinx yourself. So yes, walls, walls, walls. This time I did not build something that was 2 blocks high and took forever to heat up. This time we're going to go conservative and try to keep the space small and manageable, and get it enclosed as rapidly as possible. Not only do you have to worry about the temperature, that's definitely one of the key things. It's also the volatiles and the pollutants are in the atmosphere on Titan, so both of them are dangerous. The concentrations aren't super high, but high enough to do damage to your lungs when you open up your helmet. And we'll go ahead and start setting up the airlock. I'm just going to use the quick and easy manual doors. They actually open up quite rapidly, and sometimes they're faster than the auto doors anyway. The only part that takes time is obviously pumping air in and out using the active vents. And always remember to put a ceiling on your airlock, otherwise it's not very effective. I think for aesthetics I'll just go with the glass walls. They don't really have any greater or lesser temperature. They're still 200 kilopascals, just like the normal iron walls, but they do let in a little bit of light. I don't really set up lighting in here because every little bit of energy is important. Your little wind turbines up above do not really generate that much, so you find yourself constantly fighting for power. So I just use the spacesuit lamp pretty much continuously, and so having windows as walls helps a little bit, except at night obviously, but even here it's not super dark. I mean, the spacesuit light is pretty effective. Alright, I think we have most of the structure there built. Now we just have to fill in. So we'll get our iron plates in hand and basically just run around. One downside to using the glass walls is that it's a 2-step process. If these were just straight iron walls, you'd be done. As soon as you do the iron plate, it's build the frame, put the plate on, and you're done. We're gonna have to come back and put the glass panes in each of these frames in addition. So it does take that extra resource of not only requiring the iron plate, but also the glass plate on top of that. So here we go with the glass plate. And of course, when you do this, all of the lovely lines in the windows are all going in crazy directions because that's the way it works. When you do the steel windows, it's actually hexagon, so you don't really notice it because they're all pretty much hexagons. And so I think there might even be a direction to that, though. But yeah, you can see some of the lines are vertical and some are horizontal, but you know what? We're just trying to survive here, so we're not going to get too anal about the aesthetics. We'll come back and fix the feng shui later if it really bothers us that much. This is kind of the starter base. What I've typically done is that I just leave this. I don't really tear it down or change it too much. When I really have enough resources, I'll just start building the real base somewhere else, and I'll just remember this as the cozy place where I try not to die on a regular basis. Alright, so I think we're enclosed. One quick way, if you ever want to double check to see if you actually truly are enclosed, oops, yeah, forgot a glass panel there. Yeah, there's always one. Is use your tablet with the atmosphere analyzer in it. If it says world, then you're not enclosed, like you've forgotten the roof on your airlock, which is kind of important. If you've forgotten the roof on the airlock, it's not an enclosed room. Unless you close the door to the airlock, and then maybe it is. But if you pull out your tablet and it says room and a certain number, some random number, then you're enclosed. But if it still says world, then you've forgotten to put a pane up somewhere, or you've forgotten to enclose something. So that is a true and quick way to find out if you actually have a room. And let's see, room 24. Okay, we've got a room, and we are no longer in the outside. Of course, the temperature and the pressure are all exactly the same, so for all intents and purposes, we are outside. But as far as the tablet's concerned, this is now a room. Now the fun part. We have to clear it of volatiles and pollutants and try and heat this thing. And I am down to no water. So they do give you one tablet. So the little white tablet that you have over there in your Jetpack Basic, it will cure you of any ailments you have. So if you open up your helmet now and try to drink water, you are going to damage your lungs. And here we go. We'll go ahead and try it. We're going to try to do as rapidly as possible, but it's not going to be enough. So the helmet's locked. You unlock it. You open your helmet and you try to eat as fast as you can, and the water takes forever. But you can see I've damaged my lungs. I've got pollutants. It's frostbite on the inside of the lungs. I'll close the helmet. You can also flush your helmet. If you have pollutants and contaminants inside your helmet, you need to flush out your helmet. Unfortunately, when you do that, you introduce oxygen into a atmosphere that has a bunch of volatiles, and anything that's on will be a source for flame. I kind of wish this would heat up the room, but the room's barely heated up, even though the atmosphere is on fire. Which just seems a little bit, I don't know, it feels like I'm getting gypped. If the air's on fire, you would think it would heat up a little bit more than it is, but it's only a little bit of fire, so apparently not enough to actually be a useful fire at the moment. Alright, so there we are through the manual doors, fairly rapid, not bothering, obviously, with any active air movers at the moment to vacate the airlock, because temperature inside and outside are pretty much identical, as are the pollutants and the volatiles. But we do have to start setting up for that. So they do have your active vent there and passive vents. They do give you a few insulated pipes you can see down there in the lower left. Those are good, especially if you have 179 degree below 0 Celsius cold atmosphere. Anytime you try to bring any of that atmosphere from the outside to the inside in uninsulated pipe, you're going to immediately start cooling that room. So the insulated pipes, there's only 20 of them. They aren't going to go very far, and unfortunately, I think you need steel to make more. So we're a little bit off from making steel because there's no coal on this planet. You have to build your own carbon, which basically means growing things, and we're not going to grow stuff in minus 175 Celsius atmosphere, full of pollutants and volatiles, and usually on fire. So that's probably going to be the big challenge. I did enclose the space, so that's the work for today. The work for tomorrow will be to see if I can fix, or at least no longer further damage my poor lungs, which have been frozen and polluted at this point. I'm holding off on using that white tablet because I may have to go through another eat-drink cycle here before everything's nice. It's probably going to start a fire. Oh, look at that. Maybe not. One thing you do know with some of the upgrades to the game is that when you start to smelt your ores, for example gold, it releases oxygen, which is fun when you've got a bunch of volatiles in the air. So that's immediately a source of some impressive flames. So big fun there. But we will save that for the next one. This is the first in a number of videos about trying to survive on Titan, with the bonus of a few extra nuclear batteries here on the Arrakis plain. a Stirling generator, which will come later, and a few other baubles for setting up a trader, which I didn't actually use. But thanks for watching. This is a World Base Builder out.